phase of Moon.
Hello and thanks for joining us on Third Phase of Moon. I'm Apolla Asteria and I am here with James Gilliand. I actually had some business in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I randomly heard this event was going on, so I came out last minute. We're at Camp Disclosure, beautiful North Carolina, right near Asheville. And this is actually my first time meeting you, James.
Oh, good.
I've been hearing about ESETI.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I've been hearing about ESETI. I wish I would have made it to the last thing, but I wanted to know about that. Do you own the ranch, or what's the deal with that?
Well, it kind of owns me.
It owns you.
I'm like the caretaker there, but yeah, we've had the ranch for quite some time, and it's a lot of work, and it's like more of a steward, for the land.
How long have you had it?
34 years.
Oh wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while.
So how did you come across it? Like, how did it come into your hands?
I had a near-death experience, and then I was studying with lamas and yogis and a lot of different masters, and I was going to build a healing retreat center. And I kept seeing visions of the land, and to get it, and I was in Santa Cruz, California at the time. And so I got a map of the United States, and I used dowsing methods to find out where it was. And then I threw the map away in the closet, forgot about it, and I ended up here at the ranch anyway. So,
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, synchronistic events brought me there anyway.
I've been hearing from everyone here that there's a sort of interdimensional portal going on here.
Yeah.
Like, most of the people at this event, by the way, were just at ESETI. So I've been hearing a lot of stories of different things people have seen. People were talking about Bigfoot and blinking lights and something that opened up on the mountainside.
Oh, during my lecture here, right in the middle of my lecture, we had a ship come right across here, right through, just right above the pond. It came through, and it was gold, and it was kind of squarish, and had gold lights all the way around it.
Oh my gosh,
really
it came low over
Really
it?
low. Everybody was screaming and hollering on the right side. So that wherever I go, they follow me, and they make a presence. They make sure people get to see them.
That's incredible. Do you do any sort of technique to raise your consciousness to bring them in?
Right now it's automatic because I've been doing it for so long, but the real technique for contact is to drop into the heart and focus on love and joy and bliss with the intention of having contact and send that out. It's very simple. When you get into the long rhetoric and reading things, and it's all mental and everything else, that's a much lower level of doing things. And there's a saying, the mind in which you seek is the mind in which you connect. So if you're just coming at it from the mind or the ego or whatever, you're not really going to have much of an experience.
So when people talk about negative ETs versus positive ETs, really like their experiences would be whatever consciousness level they're attracting that they're on.
Yeah, exactly. If you're focused on love and joy and bliss, or if you operate in a universal law, which is basically, universal peace, brother, sister love, individual freedom, and prosperity for everybody. When you're operating on that in service, that's the level of consciousness that you're going to connect with. So if you're in this for the money or the fame or anything else, that's the kind of energy you're going to connect with. You're going to connect with self-serving entities versus, service to others entities. And so you want to get out of this Hollywood program, and take it up a notch.
Yeah, I've actually been in the entertainment industry basically my whole life. Well, I was actually just starting to get somewhere with movies and whatnot recently before the pandemic hit.
Yeah,
it's been interesting. What kind of beings have you experienced on the ranch yourself?
There's so many. The first contacts were Palladian, and I was doing an all-day meditation, and they started talking to me, and they were talking about kind of how humanity has to get their consciousness together and start being kind to each other and the planet, and beautiful information. And I thought it was like an ascended master or some other master talking to me in meditation. And so I asked them where they're coming from, and they said the 5th and 6th dimension is where they operate mostly. And then they said, actually, we're coming from a ship. And so I lost it. I go, this is crazy. My imagination is taking off here. I'm going to go out and plant some trees. And I didn't even make it to the door, and my sister and their friends came up. They're kind of all excited. And they go, did you see it? Did you see it? And I said, see what? And there was a big light ship hovering right over the ranch.
That's incredible. People talk a lot about Bigfoot or like Yetis being on your ranch too. Yeah. What's the deal with that? I know someone was telling me last night about they saw a little kid.
Yeah,
Bigfoot.
baby Bigfoot.
Is it big feet? Is that the plural
Yeah,
term
yeah.
for Bigfoots?
I
Big
guess,
feet?
I don't know. But they come there on a regular basis. These little gnats are coming. But they come on a regular basis. A lot of people have seen them. We've been interacting with them for a really long time. We put jars of peanut butter out for them, and they'll clean out the jar, put the lid back on, and put it back up on the post. And you show me an animal that'll do that. I mean, a raccoon maybe might take a lid off, but they're not going to put it back up on the post and put the lid back on. And if you put apples out, like 5 apples, if 3 are organic and 2 are not, they'll take the 3 organic and leave the 2 that are not. It's amazing.
That's
They're
interesting.
extremely sensitive. But that happens on a lot of very famous people have been up there and had their own Bigfoot experiences, but it happens on a pretty regular basis.
I heard they're interdimensional beings, and that's why no one can ever really find them.
We have a saying there, if you go out chasing Bigfoot, you'll never find it. But if Bigfoot wants to, it'll find you. So it's a matter of consciousness. They love kids, you know, the divine feminine energy they're attracted to, but the ego, like the male ego stuff, they don't have anything to do with it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Third Phase of Moon wanted me to ask you, how do you feel about the Pentagon task force with the UFOs that supposedly they have come out with? The New York Times, they came out recently and said that they supposedly have a task force dealing with UFOs. So what are your thoughts on that?
You know, that's a controlled narrative. They're just bleeding a little bit out at a time. You know, they have this little tic-tac thing, fuzzy tic-tac, and then they attach a movie star to it. And then you look at who's behind all this, it's the exact same people that have been controlling the narrative. We have ships coming half treetop level, even less, responding to, 200 people on the ground, powering up, making turns, morphing into 4, landing. We have all that footage, and it's in your face. It's undeniable footage. And we tell them exactly when and where the ships are going to appear, and they do. And we did that with every group that's come up there. And they always sanitize it. They take all the really good footage out, they put the vague stuff on, and then they bring their NASA guy, and he goes, oh, that's the space station, or that's the shuttle, and I go, well, it just landed on the mountain and morphed into 3. You're telling me the space station?
Oh, you send it to the government and have them review
the news
it?
did that,
that's
and they got his opinion on it. But, I mean, it's insane for anybody in their right mind to say that that's the space station or the space shuttle. First of all, they're all grounded anyway, the space shuttles. But it lands on the mountain, and it morphs into 3 or 4, and a jet comes over, and it takes off, and the jet chases it. And you're going to tell, how can you even, imagine that would be a space station, or it would be splattered all over the mountain,
Yeah, there's definitely a disinformation agenda that's going, or it's like a slow leak, it seems like.
Well, like we've had 34 years of experience with this, and we've had contact for that long. And so everybody goes, when are we going to have contact? And I go, seriously, we've had contact before the Egyptians. And it's all written in stone in Gosford glyphs in Australia, about how the ships came down, exchanged their DNA, and the whole history of Earth is written there. And they have the ships carved in stone, everything. And so it's all about consciousness and rising to the occasion. If you're waiting for somebody to tell you it's real and it's okay, and most of the people out there in the field are planned opposition, or they're controlling the narrative, unfortunately. Because if they weren't, they'd be at ESETI with their cameras. But the ones that are the posers and that have major egos involved in this, or in it for the fame and the fortune, they won't come to ESETI. You won't see them there. And we tell people, do your own research. Don't give your power away. Go out, check it out yourself, see what's real for you. And they do. They come up and they see the ships themselves. They have huge awakenings, and it changes their whole life. When they see that this is real.
So, do you think the government? Basically, what you're saying is we shouldn't rely on the government for full disclosure. We need to rely on ourselves.
Yeah, we shouldn't rely on anybody for the truth. We need to do our own research and see for ourselves. And if you want to know what's going on, we had Danny Dyer come up to the ranch, and he was blown away. And he said, I traveled all over the world, and I came to ESETI, and he goes, now I'm on UFO overload, because I saw so many ships. And he told people, he goes, look, I saw the ships, I saw them power up, I saw them change colors, turn, and he said, you can't take that away from me. He goes, this is my experience. He said, say what you want, and that's what has to happen. People need to, go out, look at the skies, meditate, ask for connection, ask for contact, and do it in the right frame of mind,
Right.
Don't go, I want to get a selfie so I can put it on Facebook with the UFO behind me. That doesn't.
That'd be really cool if you could make that happen.
We have plenty of those. We do have quite a few of those.
Yeah.
Every movie that's been filmed there has UFOs in it. Like the Uncontrolled Narrative that we have on and Contact Has Begun too. All of them have UFOs in the background while we're interviewing people.
Oh, wow.
They'll come in and stop, and they'll go and take off, and it's really funny.
That's incredible.
It does happen quite a bit.
Earlier you mentioned ancient civilizations in ufology. Do you think the ancient civilizations where ships actually came down?
It's funny how that fell by itself.
Yeah. Do you think the humans at that time were more consciously elevated than we are now, and that's why they were kind of more working with ETs?
Well, in the ancient past,
necessarily.
in the ancient past, if you pull out Ezekiel in the Bible, right, there's a shiny disc comes out of the firmament. It has bronze feet like calves. It has fire and brimstone coming out from underneath it, and when it lands, it sounds like 1,000 rushing rivers. And then out of it come wheels within wheels with their flashing lights all around them. Well, what is that? Today, we know what that is. It's obvious what it is. In ancient times, that's how they explained it. Bronze feet like calves. They had to use the symbols that they knew of to describe these events.
I just read the book of Enoch recently.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. At one part, they take Enoch up in a ship, and he's going around. They're kind of showing him different things on the planet, and it's like, what else could this be?
Exactly.
It was really incredible.
And Elijah sends in a fiery chariot, and then they have the lights at the river Chabar. They used to go and talk to the lights, would come down, and I mean, all that. It's replete throughout every sacred scripture. If you go into the ancient Sanskrit, the Vedic scriptures, they talk about ships. Some are physical, some are pure energy, some are magnetic light ships, magnetized light ships, and some are pure consciousness. They're like Merkabahs. And then on the physical ships, there's physical beings. On the energy ships, there's energy beings. On the light ships, there's light beings.
So I guess what I'm asking with that question is, it doesn't seem like we don't have stories like that coming out anymore like we did back then in the Bible and the Vedas.
Because of the controlled narrative.
But that's still going on. It's
still happening. But ever since the 60s, even before that, there's been the 50s actually. There's been a major movement to turn it all into woo-woo. You're crazy. It's the devil, or to demonize this whole thing, and it's worked. But now they can't do that anymore because the ships are appearing everywhere over major cities, everything. They can't keep covering it up. They just look really stupid. So to me, disclosure's done. I mean,
we're definitely reaching the 100th monkey in consciousness.
Yeah. In Texas, when they had all those flyovers in Texas, they did a poll. 99% of the people said they do believe UFOs exist and there is a government cover-up. So to me, the cover-up's over.
Yeah.
Who's the 1% that's still trying to cover this up?
I mean, really, they just look ridiculous coming out with these things on the news now. It's like, everyone's just like, come on, really?
Exactly,
That's kind of the reaction now.
Well, unfortunately, most of the lamestream news, they're professional liars. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They tell stories off a teleprompter, and somebody else is telling them what story to tell.
I saw a billboard on the way here that I just loved it. It said, "Believe in America, not the media."
Yeah.
I love
That's a good one. That's a good one. It's very sad because when you are awake and you are sensitive, when you look at these people, it's disgusting. You can't even watch it. And they feign, they're all mad, and they're feigning like they're upset, and it's all a bad show because they know they're lying, and they have an agenda, and they try to carry out that agenda. So I always tell people, just turn off the mainstream news. Throw your TVC out the window. I did that a long time ago.
I feel fortunate that I was raised by my parents. My uncles, they're kind of like shaman, energy healer type people. My dad, he's super redneck, but his idea of politics and news, he'd always just tell me, oh, they're just a bunch of crooks, don't listen to them. So I pretty much grew up my whole life, like, being open-minded to certain things, but at the same time.
Politic, right? There's many blood-sucking little creatures, so it's you put it together, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot there. That was, do you have any final words?
I think the main thing that people need to really get behind is discernment and do your own research. And it's very important to go within and establish your own inner sensitivity. I call it a BS meter, so you can feel what's real and what's not. And it's so important right now for people to see through all the drama and all the nonsense and the controlled narrative, because the narrative is very controlled, and it's going to end because this disclosure is going to happen. It's part of our destiny. It's going to happen from the skies. So no matter what these guys do, it's really over. They're just embarrassing themselves.
What do you think about, I hate to bring this up, but I interviewed someone recently. They were talking about the fake alien invasion. They think there's going to be a fake alien invasion. Do you think that's something we should worry about with, like, our government trying to do something like that?
We have our ships. We have the secret space fleet, but there's a lot of benevolent ships here too that are far superior. And I don't think they'll pull that off.
You think even if they did, the benevolent ones would come down?
They would probably come in and
so
short circuit everything, But there's too many people know about it.
Yeah.
There's too many people know about it. I don't think they can pull that off. Everybody go, yeah, right. And they have the blue beam stuff too, where they can fake a ship, and they have all that technology, but so many people know about it. It's I don't think they're going to pull it off.
Well, thank
I
you.
don't think they're going to be around that much longer to pull it off, to be honest with you.
I hope so. Yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you, and I'm so glad I was able to come out to this event. I had no idea I was going to end up here. I'm really glad.
Well, if you go to ECETI Stargate on YouTube or go to ECETI.org, you can see all the footage that we're talking about, and it's in your face. It's landing, morphine, powering up, treetop, half treetop level stuff, and it's not these little tic tacs, fuzzy tic tacs flying through the sky that they're trying to say this is it. No, that's not it. That's more the controlled narrative.
Yeah. So do you have any books, interviews, anything that you'd like to promote?
Well, I've written 4 books. One's Reunion with Source, and the other one's Becoming Gods, and The Ultimate Soul Journey, and Anunnaki Return. And we have all kinds of things, and we're going to have ECETI Stargate TV real soon.
Someone told me you're about to do a self-mastery program.
Yeah, we're doing an ambassador training. It's a combination of self-mastery and ambassador training. And we're going to teach people how to heal unseen negative influences, to maintain their own self-authority, to discern who's who, and we're going to connect them into the different groups, the benevolent ones, and show them how to clear out the ones that aren't so benevolent. So it's a major training that people go.
That's incredible. I definitely want to do that.
Yeah, and you come out of there, you're going to be a different person.
So is that's the next event you have coming up, right?
Yeah.
Do you know
It'll
where that's
Labor
going to
Day
be?
weekend.
Liberty Weekend?
In September.
What's Liberty Weekend?
1st September.
Oh, Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is it Memorial? No, Labor.
Oh, I thought you said Liberty Weekend. I was like, let's
Labor Day.
Liberty Weekend.
Yeah, it's going to happen on Labor Day weekend.
That's actually right near my birthday, so
should come.
I should definitely. That's going to be in ECETI again?
Yeah, it'll be at ECETI.
Oh, no way. Okay, I'm definitely going to that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for interviewing me. I know they're starting back up over here at the amphitheater, so we should probably
Awesome.
do this now.
Yeah,
so
thanks for bringing me on the show.
Thank you so much. It was great talking with you.
All right, you too.
Hello, and welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. I am here with Jace from Cosmic Origins. So I was just hearing a little bit about your story with aerospace engineering in college. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what school you went to?
Definitely. So I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which is on the central coast of California. And it's right by Vandenberg Air Force Base. So it's a big recruitment college for Vandenberg, which is one of the biggest Air Force bases in the country and also one of the biggest secret space program bases, according to insider testimony. And I really started going through my initial awakening experience after one of our professors, whose name was Bruce Wright. He was a former Lockheed Martin Skunk Works project manager, and Skunk Works is Lockheed Martin's advanced aerospace division, so basically all of their secret projects are through the Skunk Works. And he was the father of the F-22 fighter jet, which is the most successful fighter jet in history, even better than the F-35, which is the newer one they built. And so he, as a project manager, was gifted by Skunk Works models of all of the projects that he had worked on. And so he had an F-22 and like several other planes.
Are you talking about the Blackbirds?
Not the Blackbird, but the F-22 is like the kind of the standard fighter jet that they use in the military, which a lot of people and like military insiders say actually uses certain kinds of anti-gravity technology, but that are classified and not made public. Same thing with the B-22 stealth bomber. And so he had all these models on his desk that he was gifted as basically compensation for working on the projects as like a little keepsake. And 5 of the models on his desk were literally black rocks. And so naturally people wanted to know what the black rocks were and what kind of spacecraft a black rock was. And so he explained to his classes that they were representative of black projects that he had worked on. And that was kind of my first introduction to what black projects were within these groups. And so he would also show his classes like conspiracy theory videos of secret space program stuff, like mainly Project Aurora, which was the program that the TR-3B Flying Triangle came out of in the 90s. That was a part of the Aurora project.
We've been talking about that a lot on Third Phase of the Moon lately. There's been a lot of sightings.
So he worked on those projects. That's what he alluded to, at least. But he was never allowed to directly tell us.
So it sounds like he really wanted to tell you guys, but he couldn't.
Yes, you could tell he wanted to like inspire people by talking about this, but he couldn't. And so it was through that I really started like researching a lot of these secret space programs and what black projects were and the technologies. And that of course brought me to the ET phenomena and how the ETs were involved with these black projects and how these craft were reverse engineered by these various military groups and then used for like the TR-3B and stuff like that.
What do you think about the secret space program? What's your thoughts on that? Like,
just in general?
I mean, like, do you think it's like the secret space program like a lot of people in the UFO scene have been talking about, or do you think it's different? Like, what are just your thoughts in general?
I think that there are multiple secret space programs that are
by different governments around the world?
Yeah, different governments, even different branches of the military within our own government, compartmentalized projects, even within the same branch of the military. So like I think even within the Air Force, let's say, there are multiple different black budget programs that might not even really be aware of each other or what people are working on within the same spaces. Like they might even share like the same kind of office building and not really know, because that's how these compartmentalization works.
Right.
The Navy, from my understanding, the Navy and the Air Force secret space programs have been kind of opposing and competitive over the past few decades. And I think there's tons of them.
I heard the Navy, they use submarines and they change them into like the Tic Tac ships. Do you think that's true?
I think that's definitely something they experimented with.
It's like, why else would the Navy? But also what's interesting is like if you're trained to be a submarine, or if you're trained to be an astronaut, they actually have you be in a submarine as practice for being in space.
Well, it's just kind of a different medium of like being able to float around or fly in, like whether you're in the atmosphere or the upper atmosphere or the vacuum of space or you're in the ocean. It's all just like different densities of mediums, so it totally makes sense.
Being underwater is a lot like being in space.
Right. So if they could take these vehicles that were meant to be under intense pressure, that were essentially leak-proof, and then apply that concept to space travel, it's a very easy way to go from being in one medium to the other without too much of a technological increase.
I just want to say, if you notice us going like this, we're actually being like attacked by ants or gnats right now. I forgot to say we're out here at Camp Disclosure, so outside getting attacked by gnats.
Yep.
So I'm curious, what exactly do you learn in aerospace engineering? Like, what are your courses on?
So I was in astro. On the astro side of aerospace, so they divvied up everybody based on your preference into air or space, where air was of course like aircraft and space was spacecraft. But spacecraft isn't as fun as the kind of things that we think about when we think of spacecraft. It's not like UFO anti-gravity technology. It's like satellites. So I was learning a lot about orbital mechanics and the math behind orbital mechanics and the controls of launching, let's say, a rocket into space, and how fast you need to be going, at what speed and what vectors, and when you launch the payload from the rocket, and then how you get from your main orbit to your transfer orbit to your moon orbit to your Mars orbit or whatnot. So we were constantly running like simulations on that kind of stuff, but it was honestly really, really boring because I was learning about all these other programs and seeing on a certain level what they were really doing behind the scenes, and then having to do like this really boring coding work and learning about rocket science, which sounds intriguing and fun, and everyone's like, oh, rocket science, that's for the best of the best, it's the hardest thing. And it's really, I feel like it's a significant overcomplication of space travel, was what I was getting the entire time. I'm like, there's so much involved in this, and essentially we're putting up people into space on giant flying bombs that could go off at any minute. And of course there's been shuttle disasters, which, who knows.
I'm from Illinois. I know one of the Challenger pilots, or one of the Challenger astronauts, was from near where I'm from, so we had a whole museum on that. That was interesting. What do you think? I heard that anti-gravity technology is rotating magnets. That's what they use. Have you heard? What are your thoughts on that? Do you know about?
In my research, there's different kinds of anti-gravity mechanisms, but one of the most simple is counter-rotating magnetic fields, and that can be done with just pure heavy magnets, or a lot of times, like for instance what they did in the Nazi secret space programs is they kind of took that concept in a slightly different direction, and they took Mercury, which is has special properties that allow it to be superconductive and maintain a liquid state. And so with that they would spin the Mercury in a vortex.
Wait, Mercury is magnetic?
Mercury is it's electrically conductive. And I think at certain properties has magnetic features. And so what they would do is they would spin the Mercury, and they would create a vortex and have it rotating really fast. And then they would supercharge it with some kind of free energy device that could put in a lot of energy, like millions of amps. And it was through that supercharging and the rotating that it would actually create you can look at it both as a bubble in space-time from that perspective, or you can look at it as a frequency thing, where the frequency of the rotating and the electrical mechanics create a certain resonance frequency that, once in tune with the environment, starts to phase the craft out of the material reality that it's in. So it's kind of like two different perspectives, but the same thing that's happening, the space-time versus the frequency mechanics of these things.
Wait, so you're saying it's not polarized with the Mercury? It's not two things being polarized, it's just liquid mercury basically spinning?
With the Mercury machines, from my understanding, they were taking the similar concept of magnets spinning, but rather than counter-rotating magnets, it was a single direction vortex of Mercury. But it had to be at exactly the right speed and exactly the right amount of electrical input, because what ended up happening was they were having mistakes where their mercury would turn into solid gold. So a lot of the ancient civilizations considered mercury to be the most powerful alchemical metal, because it could turn metals into other base metals. And so there are several civilizations around the planet, ancient ones, that there are signs that they've used this kind of technology that the Nazis had rediscovered. And for instance, I visited the pyramids in China, and that is
the ones that are covered up with the grass. I thought those were like impossible to get. They don't let you go.
They don't tell you when you're there. And so I went to visit the Terracotta Soldiers, and it's the main temple. It's the main structure that the Terracotta Soldiers are protecting. I think it's Emperor Qin, and so all the soldiers are facing away from his tomb. This is what they tell us. And when you're there, they don't explain that the tomb is actually a pyramid. And it wasn't until I got back that I did the research and realized that that whole area of Xi'an, China, is full of pyramids, which the Americans only found out when the Air Force did covert flyover operations. Otherwise, we never knew officially. And
Wow.
so what they do tell you when they're there, one of their excuses for not excavating it officially, they tell you the Chinese government hasn't actually been inside of it, which of course is BS.
Yeah, it bothers me so much when I hear about these grown over pyramids. I'm like, why doesn't someone just go over there and dig it up?
Well, not only, they literally planted the trees on it. It was uncovered, and the Chinese government several decades ago literally planted all these plants on it, so it purposely overgrew it so that people wouldn't know.
I'm actually from Illinois originally, and there's a huge pyramid at the very southern tip of Illinois near St. Louis. That's completely grown over, and the base of it is actually bigger than the base of the Pyramid of Giza. And apparently, St. Louis used to be a giant ancient civilization.
You know, what's funny enough is I just went to St. Louis. My friends Tyler and Aaron, who are running this Journey to Truth tent that we're sitting in right now.
Oh yeah, by the way, thanks Tyler and Aaron for letting us use your tent. Third Phase of Moon takeover.
They flew me out to St. Louis to get some footage of the Cahokia Mounds that are out there. And
yeah, that's what they're calling it.
Totally pyramids. So like I know what you're talking about.
They're like step pyramids, like the Mayan ones.
Yeah.
But see, that it bothers me so much. I'm like, why doesn't someone go there and dig it up? Like, why? There's probably a lot of crazy stuff in there. There might be like ancient scrolls, like ancient artifacts. It's like, please, can we just go there and dig it up? Like, why are we going to Egypt and all these places around the world, sending our archaeologists there when there's so much going on right here in the United States that has not been uncovered yet? Yeah,
totally. And what I was going to relate that to with the Chinese pyramid was that there's a moat of liquid mercury underground around this pyramid. And they admit that officially. And it's one of the excuses they give for not excavating it, because they think they're going to get mercury poisoning. But there's literally an underground ring of liquid mercury around this pyramid. And so the first thing I thought of when I heard that was that this is some kind of spacecraft potentially,
so the
or
pyramid
energy
could just
generator.
take off. I've seen pictures of that quite a bit, of like pyramids floating. I don't know, it was like deviant art type stuff, but
or at least they were trying. I think maybe they were trying to do that, or they were trying to create like an energy generator with it. But the same concepts are what the Nazis were working on with the rings of mercury. And I believe the Vimanic texts, the ancient Vimanas that were the flying castles in the Sanskrit text, those I think also talked about rings of liquid mercury.
Oh, so do you think those were actually like flying cities that people lived in?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. See, I always assumed that maybe it was just a ship and it was their depiction of it, of just like a regular mothership. It was like, it could have been an actual city floating.
Yeah, small city, but yeah. I kind of picture them as big mansions almost.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've definitely given me a lot to think about. It's really incredible.
The Space Force thing, do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah.
With the Vandenberg base?
Yeah, what have you seen there?
So after my second year at Cal Poly doing aerospace, I became the president of the AIAA, our local chapter, which is the American Institute of Astronautics and Aeronautics, and that's who all the basically space and air programs have to officially do their work through. And so I was president of the local chapter, and so I would coordinate events between Vandenberg Air Force Base and the college. And so I was given special permission on a couple of occasions to go out and watch rocket launches on base with the people who worked on the launches. And so I was like pretty close on base watching these. And I would say 70% of the launches that I saw, I probably saw about 7. Like maybe 4 or 5 of them were launches for what's called the NRO, which is the National Reconnaissance Office. And the NRO is one of the big 5 intelligence agencies, one that you never really hear about because they don't really get their name out there. But you have the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, the NRO, and I think it's the Geospatial intelligence agency. Those are the big 5. Those are like...
What exactly were they launching? Was it different than other?
So they don't
things
tell
there?
you. It's totally classified, completely classified.
Oh, so you just see something going
just-
up in the air and you don't know what it is.
But they do give you the specs for the size sometimes. So the payloads that they were sending up were literally larger than school buses. So when I was watching these craft, or you know, these payloads and these rockets go up on their biggest rockets, it was really stimulating my awakening, because I was like, wow, literally things larger than school buses are going up into space on a monthly basis and nobody knows about it. Nobody knows this agency. Nobody really knows what they're called. It's public to a degree, but nobody's talking about it. And
Yeah, that's
that
crazy.
was like,
You definitely don't hear about that. I heard that Lockheed Skunk Works builds a lot of their craft in Palmdale, California now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about that? What they work on there?
I know that, yeah, the Palmdale area and Edwards Air Force Base, and I would say pretty much all of Southern California to a degree has underground base activity. A lot of people have talked about the large cube complex that's under Edwards Air Force Base. Both military insiders and remote viewers have talked about this, that there's a large black cube, which, if you're familiar with the cult of Saturn, they worship the black cube, and so that is definitely part of it. And yeah.
That's interesting. I live in LA, so that's very interesting to me, because, yeah, I always wonder if there's something under the hills in the Hollywood Hills, because it's like, you know, such a big hilly area, and there's a lot of interesting people that live in that area, and I've heard there's a lot going on under the streets of LA.
Yep,
So.
I wouldn't doubt it.